weren't there? Or?
Well, all the presses in the beginning were operated by men, but in the end, we had a couple women that worked the presses too.
That's to press the things after they're sewn.
The press, there was, let's see, when they sewed the legs of the pants, they had what they called leg pressers. Now, they were all men. And then when it left there and went over on, we had two sides of the shop, you know, and when it left there and went over, there was different places where the work was pressed so you could do it proper. But in the end, we had off pressers. They were the top paid of the factory. When the pants were all done, they came to them, they were pressed, then they went to the examiners.
And that final pressing was the top page of. That was the top page.
That was the top thing, yeah.
And how were they pressed? Was it like a big
well, they had someone was little ones where you pressed the top, where you put the top on it. The other ones was long ones for the legs.
And then just bring the top down?
Bring the top down,
yeah.
We had, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, I think we had 8 pressers.
But the sewing, was that done by men or women?
The only man I ever knew that did it was Bob Irons, and he worked with my sister on vests, and they sewed what they call the welts on the pockets. Then he went to the surface. He's the only man I ever remember when he was a young kid.
Women. It's a woman's, sewing was a woman's job, and then pressing was the man's job. But you were a floor girl, so that type of supervisory position was women, or at least it was you.
We had floor ladies now.
Floor ladies.
Yeah, they were women. Then you had Paul Brenner was our, in the beginning was the only boss over vests. And then when they changed, he became boss over pants too. We had Frank Setti, John Mattia came down from Rochester.
So the once you got above that, the administration was all men, probably.
No.
No?
Over around the beginning of the paint shop, we had a lady by the name of Jo Miller, who just died here a little while ago. She was a good boss. I remember her saying to me once when I first got the job working. Well, then Paul Brenner said, I must go over and the other side of the shop and be floor lady, or be floor girl, and run it all the way through. It was my job to put the pockets with the pants, with the legs, so they would sew the right pockets in, and went with it. And I remember one day I was tired, and Jo Miller came up and said to me, she said, "You look tired, Marge." I said, "I am." She said, "Go down to the washroom and sit." She said, don't let any of the bosses see you. Go down there and sit for 5 or 10 minutes. She was a good floor lady. Yeah, I liked Jo very much.
What's the difference between floor girl and floor lady?
The floor girl took the work out to be repaired. The floor lady just gave all the orders.
Okay.
And it was my job to always, when we shipped the pants, we tried to ship it like if it was 50. You tried to ship a complete 50. Maybe you'd ship 49. It was my job to find that other pair of pants.
Okay. So the pack was complete.
Yeah, so that eventually they would catch up with the lot. Then we did, and I can't remember what they were. They had a special name for them. We did work for Sears, and they were special pants. And they came through our shop, and we set them up on hangers. We had racks, a rack with all the hangers on. It was my job to see that they were complete. And no one else touched them. I mean, they were examined, but when they got to me, our shipping clerk never touched them. And before they went, we would get a complete lot on that rack. Then we had a fellow that would come down and touch them, what we call touching up. And then they would all go complete.
And what about the war uniforms? Were you there when they did that? You weren't there working?
I think that's when my oldest boy was, or my youngest boy was born. I never worked because I was gone 3 years, and I didn't intend to go back at all. My husband and I had figured it all out that he could make enough money that I could stay home. But then my mother offered him, as we said, I talked it over with Floyd, and he said, you can do as you please. Of course, we could have a new car, we could go out more, we could do this and do that. And as long as my mother said she would do it, because my oldest boy was 10 years old when my second one was born. So, and I went back and he was 13, and Bob was 3 years old. So.
Did you notice any difference in the styles of what you were making when you went back?
Oh yes, in the pants or in the coats. You know, they had the big lapels, and all of a sudden they got little lapels. Yeah, there was a difference. And one of the things I always remembered was we made golf pants in knits, and they would be red striped, and they were plain red, and they blue striped and plain blue, and green striped and plain green and browns and yellows. All them fancy looking pants that they wore on the golf course. We made a lot of them.
And there was a golf course active right here, so they were sold locally too.
Warmers for raincoats. Now I got a raincoat, it's got a warmer in it. I never paid attention.
It's a lining?
Yeah, lining, yeah. Some of them came just the lining of the coat, then some came with the lining of the sleeves hooked to the part,
Yeah.
So, but as I say, one thing our union does, I don't know if other people, these glasses I wear, my union paid for. If I go to the doctor's and it's an ordinary call, they pay. They pay the office call. And I have a physical every year.
This is part of your retirement benefits?
Yeah, everybody gets it. Yeah. Our pension isn't very high, but that's what we get those.
The company went out of business, but you still have your retirement.
You still have it. City Hillman Health Center in Rochester. Right now they started a new wrinkle, which I think is very good. If you send your prescription up there, you can get it for $2. The only thing they won't do is anything that's got a narcotic in it, because you can't have sent through the mail. They have to be picked up by person.
And you had something to say about all of the various owners, or did you meet any of them?
Oh yeah, they used to always come down through the shop, Every now and then I said they were inspecting us. Yeah.
So there's a mention in that history of, who they started the factory in Rochester and then they built one down here. And it was a man, and then his sons ran it. So how many of these people have you met? You can take the paper, maybe figure out from that.
I don't know, man. When I went to work there, we had the pants and the vest, and I worked on the vest shop till it went out of business. And that was Paul Venner, and he lived here in town up on East Main Street. That's his son-in-law, Felvey, is the assistant district attorney, or he's whatever he is. The other girl lives right next door to me now, Janet Venner. She married Don Crank, and they live next door now.
He owned it or managed it?
No, he just run it.
He was the manager.
I think Michael and Stern, they were the two, I guess, that started it and run it. Or they were the two, I guess, that started it and run it. Because they're the only two we ever heard about. I remember when I first went there to work, there was a John David in New York. That was our biggest customer. And when they show on TV those where they're running them through the town, you ever see on TV where they've got the coats and stuff and they're running them through the town on racks?
Yes.
When they say that's the way they did it. Because I never went to New York, so I don't know about that. He was our biggest customer.
And then the factory was sold from the original owners. And that's when things started. You were talking about what they did that you didn't think was good as far as
what our union representative, that's what he was up there. He came down and said that Frankenstein, for instance, every pants had underneath the top here has a lining. Well, they have to be sewed in, and maybe they would send us down that, and if they didn't send it down, maybe if that part of the shop had to go home because it didn't have enough work, the ones after them didn't have any work neither. And that's what they said. He was taking the money and spending it instead of buying the buttons and the thread and the accessories or whatever you call them that go with these things. They're just like the pockets. The pockets came down separate, and somebody in that shop sewed that. All pockets have a little facing on them. They had to be sewed on, and if you didn't have any pockets to do it, you didn't do it.
So this was towards the end.
Towards the end.
I don't remember what the dates were, but they are in there.
He just took the money and they retired. The factory closed in I was retired a whole year, 1976, in May 1977. It shut right down.
And I guess it tells there when Frankenstein took over.
Yeah, when he took over, he declared bankruptcy, is what it says here.
But he took over how much?
1977, yeah. May the 13th, that's right.
When did he take over then? It probably says that there too.
It doesn't say here, it just says on March 25th, Frankenstein declared bankruptcy. Michael Stern's Penn and Rochester plants closed their doors. Rochester closed, and we got all the help down here. They came down here to work. There was one in Albion, because I remember when Arlene Forder and her father came
Uh-huh.
from Albion and worked in our plant.
So some other people came here as the other plants. The other
Yeah.
plants closed down first. Then.
Timely's closed.
Uh-huh.
When Timely's closed in Rochester, anyone that wanted a job came to Penn Yan.
Uh-huh.
And we got a lot of people from there. But they employed them. It was kind of rough because they employed quite a lot of people. It made a big hole in Penn Yan's employment thing.
Where did they go to work? There were no other
We had
clothing
Allison's
factories.
in Geneva.
Okay.
That was the same union that we have.
Uh-huh.
And anybody that, if they could use them, could go over there and work.
Uh-huh.
But I retired, so I didn't have to worry about that.
The building on the left of the Liberty Restaurant there
Next to the Liberty Restaurant.
is no longer standing, but you told me.
It was, a man came every day, and there could have been more than one now. That's, I only remember that one. He came every day and lowered the guardrails when the trains went through. So he wasn't there every minute, you know. We used to have a lot more trains too that went by than we do anymore.
And what is in the Liberty Restaurant now?
There's still a Liberty, it's a bar, except in the back they serve, they have a dining room in the back where they serve lunches to the public. You can go there for dinner, or for lunch and dinner.
So this is a picture of the old academy
The old academy, Penn Yan Academy.
that we were talking about and that you went to.
Yeah, I graduated in 1931 from it.
And actually, everyone else that we were talking to went to it too. The new academy wasn't built till, when, in the 60s?
Yeah, I'm trying to think when they took this one down. My boy graduated in 1951 and it was still there then.
Uh-huh. So a
So
lot
that
of...
was the last thing I had any
Well,
time.
here it's 1963, Penn Yan Academy. This picture right below the one the color picture above.
It's 1963.
So it's still there in 63. Okay.